Oh yeah, I don't have anything to provide intro or outro
Oh,
accompaniment this week, unfortunately.
welcome to the podcast.
That 100% sounded like the intro to the Evanescence song.
Well, it also sounds vaguely like um, the Unsolved Mysteries and vaguely
Oh
like the
yeah,
Twilight Zone. And I feel like those are all good for this week.
all the good unsettling sounds. Welcome back to your home for unsettling sounds. Uh, this week's podcast, which this week is going to be brought to you by facial paralysis and logging off.
This week's podcast is also brought to you by Personal Needs and Suggestions.
I am your host, Madison.
I am your other host, Jesse James. Uh, I don't. Were you suggesting there's something different about you?
No, not at all. Other than just like half of my head is gone rogue, but other than that, it's business as usual. I think I kind of like over text told you what sort of happened, but just for everybody else's context, last weekend, um, I woke up on a Sunday and half of my face had ceased to work. So I got real scared and I went to the ER and they were like, "You have Bell's palsy, which can go more often than not, as I understand it, goes away within like 3 weeks. Some people have it for a long time. Um,
Yeah.
I am going on, I think about about 5 or 6 days. I can do math, but um,
Also, those
yeah,
days in 2020 are different.
I'm actually fairly certain it's been 6 years since
Yeah.
the diagnosis. Um, it's very interesting. Like I was just telling Jesse, it's a fun reminder that your body can just stop working at any time and you have nothing to say about it. So, yeah, it's mostly been fine. Today it's kind of painful, so today's pod is probably going to be a little shorter, but uh I mean other than that, life is so good.
Honestly, it kind of just looks like how I draw characters. Because I always make a point of asymmetry, because that's like how I like to make things. It's
Yeah.
also how people make things when their art isn't very popular. So, you know, you can interpolate a lot of my own choices into how that business goes. But
Well,
yeah,
I'll
I
take
was
lots of selfie reference photos if you need them for like a half
honest,
working thing.
honestly, if you did straight on and profile pictures, I would totally use it for stuff. But uh, I was telling you right before we started that one of my acquaintances, friends, a high school person, spent the last 6 months of school with an even worse version of that, and it. I don't.
That
They
would
were pretty
suck.
ups. Well, they were upset in that they basically tried to be completely invisible for like 2 weeks, I think,
Yeah.
and then uh, I think when they realized that everybody else cared way more about everything they were doing than any other thing, they seemed like they kind of forgot that it happened. And then I feel like everybody else forgot too. But uh, when this popped up for you, it definitely reminded me of that. Just in like, I remember I think it was a Monday. They showed up, and I like sat next to them in a class, and they were acting weird, but I was sitting to the side of them, so I literally had no idea
Yeah.
that anything was wrong other than them seeming like they were like low energy that day. Uh, but also, you've said a few times that it over time like just sort of hurts, or like having to like deal with it is like exhausting, sort of. So uh, that context kind of adds to why they were
Acting
displeased.
that. Yeah, I mean, like it's not like throbbing pain. It's just like really tender to the touch, which is
Okay.
more of a today and yesterday thing. That's kind of new, so I'm probably gonna go get that checked up on. But
I
up
mean,
until then, it had been
um,
just paralysis mostly.
completely experiential slash layman analysis of that is this section of my face. Um, it's almost normal finally, but a decade ago when I had my jaw surgery,
Mm-hmm.
uh, from the center of my mouth to here was just completely dead, and it
Oh,
stayed that
really?
way for years because they had actually like moved and like fucked with nerves and stuff.
Ooh.
And uh, the first chunk of time, like I don't honestly know enough about nerves. I know that if you sever them, I think that takes a long time to come back if it does. So I think that's what happened, because like being able to feel even like where the hair is on this part of my face is kind of new still. Um, and it did go through a period of time, like maybe 3 or 4 years in, where it hurt here for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that more likely than not, from my perspective, is probably the healing process, because nerves generally hurt when they start to repair.
Yeah.
So that would be
That
my
makes
guess.
sense.
Um, Also, you can't really stop using your face that much. So there's a good chance that you doing a lot of shit is keeping things moving in there quite a bit anyway. So
Yeah. I
flash
have
bags have
like
a way of uh,
doing their
doing
stuff.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. I have like some exercises I've been doing that are real cool that you're supposed to like use your finger to make it go.
Uh-huh.
That's like one of them. Oh, I learned I have a really cool trick that I could do, which is flare one nostril.
I mean, I'm pretty into that.
Like that's really cool, right? I bet no one else can do that,
I
other
wish
than
I
other
could.
people with Bell's palsy or facial shit. But yeah, that was new the other day. I figured out I could do that. So I don't know. They have me on steroids and antivirals because it's possibly caused by a viral thing. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like doctors don't fully agree one way or another about that. It's just kind of like, we think maybe that could be it. So I'll just take
Uh,
my meds and shut up, I guess. But
Dealing with doctors and scientists a reasonable amount in my life, that seems to be the case with almost everything.
yeah,
It's really annoying because we are not told that to start with. Uh,
yeah, they haven't really made too much of a difference, the either of them that I can tell.
yeah.
So we'll see.
I want to say steroids are probably making a difference somewhere, because they tend to it's like the way that your body repairs is affected, so they usually do help with that kind of stuff.
I
But
mean, I have made some like incredible gains the last few
yeah,
days.
you've been really pissed off, and you've been really really fucking jacked.
Just
So
doing like so many like bicep curls angrily in my room. Yeah.
speaking of that, I had to take a moment. So since the start of, probably the start of April, April, May, somewhere in there, when I realized that my motions had changed because of the proximity of things that I was in. Uh, Even just things like having to hang on to a bus for like 45 minutes while you go somewhere uh,
Yeah.
affects you. And I wasn't doing that. So, I'm not sitting here holding on to my light or anything. And so I had been doing a workout plan that was just based on like basically high school, uh,
Mm.
weird high school centric start, but um, I did 0 hour PE for a fair amount of schooling, and that was basically uh, taking a chunk out of the day to do a bunch of like repetitive exercises, and then like I played basketball, but I didn't do like other stuff really, and so I just sort of picked that back up. My night walks and stuff are, I guess, the basketball for an older, less in shape me. Well, more in shape, less fat me. But the it wasn't doing enough, and I'm just doing like a little set of reps of stuff. So I moved it to also doing it at the start of the day. And since my day started with a headache, I had to do that before we started, or I would feel, I don't know, once you stop doing something,
Yeah.
it can be difficult, especially when it's a one person thing, to like keep it in the habit portion and not in the
Right.
like something you like to do. So
Yeah.
uh, it's been helping a little. I've only moved it to multiple times a day, like as of the last like 10 days or something, but it's still noticeable. I'm still getting weird bits of soreness in like uh, different parts of my shoulders and stuff. So I guess that's good. Um, Also, if you're sore in places and you know why, it tends to make you feel less stressed about all the soreness you have that has absolutely no reason in your head. So
This is
uh,
true.
that's honestly, that is probably my biggest endorsement for working out, is that if you keep yourself constantly sore, you don't have to wonder why, like, oh, my sternum just hurts all the time because,
Yeah.
like, if I push on stuff, it hurts. And then uh, it just hurts now because I've moved my workout up a little bit. Speaking of working out, uh, I got this
Ooh.
Piapst, uh,
Nice.
cold,
Nice.
cold and foamy. And then I've got this mango that I cut up uh,
Ooh.
last night. I always, I don't know how other people eat mangoes, but I always cut it separately from eating it so that I can like eat it when I'm not having to worry about actually chopping it up. But
Yeah.
I do the thing where I sort of liberally cut the two halves off and then I just skin the middle. And then I eat the middle like a weird, grotesque hamburger. Uh,
Like a chipmunk.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and that's the first portion of the mango, and then the
I think
cut part
that's
is
the
for later.
correct way to do it. You got to make sure you get all those weird mango fibers like stuck in
Yeah,
your teeth. Yeah. It's part of
it
the
also
experience.
it also means that I get to what, since they're in season here, whatever that means for right now. I don't know what seasons are anymore, but um, it's 2 for $3, so it spreads the mango out into 4 sessions, which is
Ooh,
obviously more economical.
that's
Uh,
very nice.
yeah, 75 cents a mango. You know,
Ooh. Yeah, that's a good deal. That's good. I don't have any um well, I have this. I have a grapefruit fizzy drink
you
with
have
a very
something.
long straw.
You have something that you can drink through one half, which is important. I I imagine the YouTube algorithm, since that's how we end up with our photos, is going to do terrible things to us. But it does have more likelihood of being terrible if you are also trying to eat something. Because
Yeah.
that could go bad. Just lots of chocolate, so you just kind of have like a weird chocolate smear.
Yeah, they do tend to favor those frames, it seems like.
Yeah. Any frame where I'm like, this is going to get in there. That one's probably going to be it, honestly.
Yeah, probably. Oh, hello. My dog has joined the chat. Hello.
Are
Hi,
you in
dog.
a bag room?
A bag room? Oh,
Which,
yeah, well, that is my bag, yes.
oh no, is this kid bedroom or is this
It
somewhere else?
is. It is kid bedroom. It's repainted, so it's no longer three different shades of a questionable mint turquoise selection.
I don't know if I can agree with that. But...
I do actually. Um, I like it. I like this color. It just feels like happy. It's kind of a yellowy beige, which I
Yeah,
appreciate.
it looks like a cream of some kind. I'm into it.
Yeah, it's sunny, it's nice, and it feels like I have officially moved on from high school, which is nice to to walk in and not feel like I'm transported back in to some of the worst times of my life. I'm gonna shut the door real quick.
Okay.
My dog likes to be wherever people are, but
Yeah.
she opens the door and I can't stand when doors are just ajar.
Uh, huh. So I have several sets of notes, and I usually have more notes than I need, but we delayed this for like an extra 3 days or whatever. So in that time, I ended up with these notes, but I had forgotten about the week prior's notes. And one of my notes is just a little arrow pointing to the word pegging. So I don't remember what that was in reference to.
Is that something to do with like TikTok? I feel like I saw an article about people were being obsessed with pegging or something on TikTok, which I don't care. But
I don't think so. Honestly, somebody must have mentioned pegging, so I bet it stemmed from something like that. But I don't really tick or talk, so uh, my guess is that I heard the word pegging and it brought up my memories of having an ex that was really upset that I wasn't interested, and would lightly press the point constantly, uh, which was honestly one of the ways that I learned to say no. Because,
huh,
butt stuff, not really my
yeah,
thing.
to
But
each their own. But yeah, I don't know what that would have been in reference to.
yeah, uh, man. Well, that's fine. I did want to mention. I think it happened like the day after the last podcast we did, but Michael Brooks died suddenly, so I thought I would mention that just as like it's a bummer, and it would be nice to have both Michael Brooks. I thought as everybody's talking about his humor, and I actually didn't like his humor very much, but I liked his ideas a lot, and I liked how good he was at getting people who like matter to come talk to him, and it was impressive how much for the way he presented, he was a really good example of how much you could internalize and know about like politics in general without being visually somebody who was like a political person. I feel
Right.
like there's a very professorial expectation of people when they are political, even if like Zizek and people like that look like they live in a dumpster. Like you forget about them when you think about like people who know what they're talking about, and that felt like a good thing to have around. So I mean, I'm glad that his stuff's all on the internet. People can go look at his interviews with like Cornel West and people like that because they're good. But uh, he had a bumper at the end of his shows that I just hated. So I watched a lot of his videos minus the last 10 seconds. Uh, but it still sucks. And it also was one of those things. So I guess it was like a blood clot. And
Um,
honestly, like if people are going to die suddenly, I feel like that's lots of weird sudden shit is happening right now because people are getting out of their personal rhythm. So, uh,
yeah, that's what
yeah,
happened to the Mythbusters guy too, I
the
think.
I didn't hear about that one.
I can't remember his name. Um, I don't know. But somebody who was on Mythbusters recently passed away too, just also from a blood clot.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Also, that stuff happens all the time, but you don't really hear about it quite the same way as when you're sitting in front of a screen constantly.
Yeah.
Uh, which you mentioned logging out, I think, was one of your topics,
Oh boy.
or
Logging
uh,
off.
logging off. What's
Yeah.
that in reference to?
So, it's a bit of a story, I guess. Because I have this going on, I've been kind of like taking things easy with work and
Oh, yeah.
trying to take kind of breaks away from screens, which really has not been
Uh-huh.
working out. Um, I've also been here with my family in Coeur d'Alene for the past week because I just wanted to be around them just as I kind of adjust to this
Hmm.
and just in case. But uh so there's been a couple of different like stupid Coeur d'Alene social media dramas happening that I have been following closer than I normally would have
Oh,
just
fun.
because of this. And
I mean, a lot of good stuff happens there, though, right?
oh yeah, lots of good things. Uh, um, we kicked off the week with a influencer, I guess, from Coeur d'Alene. She has like 80 something thousand followers. Posting a bunch of transphobic shit about the TLC show, My Pregnant Husband, which
uh,
obviously it's TLC and it's reality television, so I mean it's written a certain way to get a certain reaction,
yeah.
obviously. And it worked, and so she, just posted a bunch of shitty things, and everybody kind of, not everybody, it's disappointing to see how like, not that I can accurately quantify this, but it seems very like maybe 40, 50% of people being on the good side of things and 40% of people being like, thank you for telling the truth. Um,
Uh-huh.
that's
Yeah,
disappointing.
that's always my I don't know. It sucks because you you usually get a sort of myopic group of people in anything that follow somebody. So like even if it's like a million followers, when you consider the percentage of people who use the internet even in the
Mm-hmm.
United States, it's such a tiny percentage. Like it's what like 0.02% or 0.2% at the very most usually that follow anybody. Uh,
Right.
and kind of the same problem with things like Alex Jones. Like you have like a million or so people who look at that stuff, but if you were to put up an opinion thing, you learn who actually watches it, and it's really disappointing when you see things that. I mean, it doesn't sound like it was somebody you really cared about, I assume, but just the fact that they had a following and they were pro that is shitty. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had never heard of this person. It was just a thing that I had heard about through other like Coeur d'Alene people.
yeah.
But that was disappointing. So I commented some shit on there saying that's not cool. My dog just bonked her head. So I've followed that like closer than I probably should have for just like mental health. But the bigger piece of news, all of this is such like non-news, but um, so hold on one second. Let me let out my dog again. Dog, why have you done this? Okay, go outside. Go.
Can't live with them.
Okay.
Never trust a dog.
Back to story time. So up here in Coeur d'Alene, there is a small clothing store, called Beaumont. It's just a small business. It's like a consignment shop.
Okay.
And earlier, like 2 days ago, some girl about my age posted a review on their like a Google review, and she in her review just basically said, I'm disappointed that you're not following the mask mandate, because we have one of those surprisingly now.
Well,
How
that's
that
good.
got
I
passed,
mean,
no idea.
the fact that anywhere doesn't is amazing at this point, but sure.
Right. I mean, I'm surprised that it's happening and people aren't really following it, of course. But
yeah.
So she posted a review basically saying, I'm disappointed you're not, and I've been shopping here for a long time and I wish you were. That was pretty much the extent of it.
Okay.
That's the only ground she covered in it. So the business owner, this woman, reposted her review to Facebook with her full name and
okay.
like looked up the girl on Facebook, and this girl on her Facebook profile had a Black Lives Matter like cover thing. And so she responded not only to the mask thing, which whatever, like you can I don't even care about how she responds to that because she's wrong and it's dumb. But she wrote like a 5-paragraph review or response about the mask thing, and then told this girl and like publicly attacked her for supporting BLM because they are a Marxist organization and want the destruction of the nuclear family, whatever these like weird misinformed things that people are saying. Those were the two main claims that she made. So she basically just like went well out of her way to publicly attack the personal views of a person that was not even a part of the original conversation. And again, with this post, like people have had kind of, I would say like a 40-50 response to it. 50, most people, it seemed like to me, were like, this is really unprofessional and I'm not going to shop here anymore. And I responded to it and I said something to that effect too. I think I just said like, I didn't even take a stance on the BLM thing because I didn't want to argue. I was just like, that's really unprofessional and you shouldn't be doxing a customer.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing the thing that everybody's afraid is going to happen to them in like modern times.
Yeah, like this woman has like 8,000 people on her page, so she basically just publicly blasted a customer they just like threw it out to these 8,000 people to like, okay, you do what you will with this. So I just responded and said that, and then someone responded to me and said, uh, it was an older guy whose profile picture just said, I hate communism and nothing else.
Oh, an American.
An American.
Yeah.
So he said, Madison, if you support BLM and Antifa, not even brought up, by the way, Antifa, nobody brought that up except for him. he says, "You don't belong here, and we don't stand for that in Northern Idaho," or something to the effect of like, "You should go back to wherever like you you don't belong here because you ostensibly like." I didn't even take a position on either of those things,
Yeah.
but anyway, I I responded to it and was just like, no, those are. Oh no, did I even say the most important part? He said that BLM and Antifa were Nazi organizations. That's what he claimed in his comment.
Okay. Well,
And I was like, no. um. Anyway, that's what this podcast is now, is me just like verbally telling you about comment threads of really stupid posts. So that was
I
my last couple of days.
honestly, I would probably listen to that podcast, but I don't know if everybody else would.
I'm glad. I'll keep it to that, but just God, I have let myself indulge a little more this week with the like just keeping tabs on it and like reading the comments and getting really lost in that. And I can tell just like the way that my
Yeah.
brain is when you engage with it, it's just like it changes. Like I'm on edge and I'm like constantly thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't want to do it again. But when it's like a place in a business that I've been to and I previously liked, I just wanted to say something, but I don't know. It's like, is it even worth the brain strain? I don't know.
Yeah, I that is kind of a question that we all have to deal with, I think, because uh, like for example, I do uh, I don't know, minor vandalism, I guess, and uh, my I'll say it's not exactly where I am, but it's nearby for the purpose of not being uh, what I figured was probably the only person who lives in this area who would care in that way and have the experience to at least do some kind of street art,
Mm.
even if it's minor and art is debatable. The um, So it's sort of an up and a down to that. I'll start with the down. Is that um, over the course of the last like 2 weeks, there has been my stuff is mostly in regards to defunding the police because that's the main through line for like Black Lives Matter being sort of the movement. Defunding the police is the thing that I believe I can support the easiest because I think that's going to get the most immediate results in not having minorities killed disproportionately, things like
Yeah.
that. And also, I have felt that way about the police, and I've felt that way about the way we treat non-white people since I was a kid. So, like, having that finally be a topic that we can talk about. Maybe the most frustrating thing is how many people kind of like, I'm sure some of the responses you've seen, but the idea of it being like a thing that everybody all of a sudden likes because it's cool uh, as
Yeah.
opposed to something that everybody would shout down the second you started talking about it. And there's finally enough momentum to like do anything. Um, but like 10 days ago or something, we started getting uh, counter defunding graffiti. Uh,
Really?
and and it's so part of this story is there was a cop who was killed like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now, in Bothell, which is a town near here.
Hmm.
Um, it's just sort of an other suburb that's uh, encapsulating Seattle. Uh, and I initially heard about this, which I mean, this works well with the whole timeline of this because I didn't really talk about it before, but I guess it was like 2.5 weeks ago, because that would line up with the timeline of when Nick was here and when we were talking about this. So Nick's boyfriend lives in the Bothell area, and there were gunshots in Bothell at that point, like at night. It was only like 10:30 maybe, like it wasn't super late even. The only news that came out of it to start with was a man opened fire on police, and a policeman is dead, and that was like the story. And then the news cycle thing is hard to interpret sometimes, because if it's a story particularly about like people who other people care about, think are the victim, or are often white, which again, I'll give up a bias on that, because like there are more white people, so like you have to kind of take that into consideration. But it seems shitty anyway, and we have some bits of evidence that if things happen and it's with non-white people, it is reported differently. So you can take that however you want. But
Yep.
A fair amount later, this is like maybe 2 days before the stuff started going up, there was a news report that finally came out explaining what happened. And in the middle of that time, between the shooting and that news report, Nick's boyfriend happened to be walking past the front part of the police station in Bothell, and they have like sort of a retainer wall around part of it. And behind the retainer wall, there was a big white van with a Confederate flag in it. So he took a picture because he was like, that's just parked in their parking lot. Like, that doesn't make any sense to be there. And it's obvious enough, but you can't see it from the front. I'm going to send him an email or something along those lines and ask. Of course, I mean, I think anybody could guess the response was it's impounded, because no matter what the situation is, like, what are you going to say about that? Like, I don't think that a cop would be, generally speaking, having a Confederate flag in their window, because generally cops are aware of how that works with the law, because it isn't against the law to have one, obviously, but it is a warning sign for sure. So
right,
that kind of stuff, like, no matter what the situation is, of course, that's not going to be a major issue, but it is weird, and that's not something you see. There are impound lots. That's definitely not one of them. So it's a little bit frustrating to not get a more like substantive answer. Anyway, that's just extra Bothell police information. So that report comes out, and I don't see it for a couple days. Like I end up seeing it after this, but I'm out on like I'm pretty much out every night, like late, and I see near some like defunding stuff. Now there is a very cleanly attached to a tree, like evenly stapled, like also very, very boring. I'll actually send you the picture because
I'm curious to see.
Trying to explain it. So I'll tell you my thought on it first and see, like, it'll influence your opinion, whatever. I'll see if you agree with me more than what your take on it is. But because my take on it is something that's completely unprovable and, like, I don't really care that much. So keeping in mind, this is next to, you know where the Zoka is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's on a tree across the street from that. So like that main intersection.
Oh, yeah.
So first off, it's in a spot where, keeping in mind, this is also about 12 feet up, maybe 10 and a half, 11, somewhere in that range. And it's also, it's not facing away, like it's facing the street, and then it's under like a street lit area, because like that picture was taken at like 4 in the morning, not 4, like 2 in the morning. It was taken late enough to where there's not visibility unless it is under lights. So that to me read as a bait picture. Like that looks like something where there are cameras around and they are curious to see if anybody's going to fuck with it. Or even if there aren't cameras pointing at it, the thing people often don't consider about street art in general is that every time you do it and you're taking a risk, like I've said before, sort of the point of it is anonymity. Like that's why people don't use their real names unless they're paid for something. But also, like, you don't see things on buildings that are pointing towards like cameras and shit unless somebody is fucked with those cameras, because like you're aware of that stuff. Like if you have any self-preservation, you know that shit. So its placement and everything read to me as either, keeping in mind this is close to City Hall, it's either just like my conspiracy-minded version of me is like, oh, the cops put that there. Like it's so clean and it's so like evenly
low
set.
effort.
Yeah, it's so anti-anxiety and like honestly, yeah, low effort. Like you could design that in what, like 2 minutes tops, like
and like Microsoft Word in about 30 seconds. Yeah.
And the only thing that speaks to me of somebody who has any like artistic mind at all is that they made the text big enough to see, but that's not really saying anything definitively.
Yeah.
So that was sort of a bummer when that went up, because it was not only was it right next to some other stuff, so it was clearly like in a response to it, because there's not a lot of street art in Kirkland. Like it is exactly what you would think. It is essentially a park marina with a bunch of drunk boat parties at night, even now, and then like the most suburby suburbs with a nice library. Like that's all it is. Then I saw people had used like packaging tape to tape little printout posters on the outside of buildings, which, again, for street art's sake, you don't tape things to glass like that unless you are doing it without permission, because places that let you put stuff up don't fucking tape stuff to their windows. It sucks to get off.
Yeah.
If you do tape stuff to windows, you use like masking tape or something that you can actually take off. And the stuff that there's now like probably 4 of them around town, and they're little single sheet printouts of that killed cop's name and a fund for his family. And it's not specifically like it. Basically, the story is about propaganda, but it's not specifically like support the police like that other piece I sent you was, which literally just says support Kirkland police.
Yeah.
It's talking. I have pictures, but like this is actually a person who died, so like I don't really feel like spreading that around as much. This guy like has a fund for his family, essentially like paying for the death costs and stuff, and I'm fine with that. But also like posting that around Kirkland. This happened in Bothell. Is not Kirkland. It's close-ish, but it's also like kind of weird. And it's obviously like, so I've been putting stuff up for a while, but having stuff show up all at once is potentially completely coincidental, but it does read as like people who are concerned about police either are triggered by hearing about this, which I doubt, because not many people heard about it. I have not talked to like anybody but my roommate who heard, so it makes me think it's probably maybe in conservative circles, but I don't know how much else. And then that's about it. And so to end this story, I came home and I was like, okay, that's weird that those are up now and clearly like put up by somebody who's not the store owners. Though now there is one that's definitely a store owner because it's inside under a window, which is what you do with something like that. But also it's at a place that does real estate. So like if you're going to support cops, that's like your number one place to go. Anyway, so and just keep in mind, I don't consider supporting people's family after their death is supporting cops, but the way that this is written out and the way it's being distributed is a concerted thing. So I finally found the story that listed what happened, and his partner killed him. His partner shot him in
like
the
accidentally.
car. Yeah. And as far as the story read, which it's been long enough to have updates and stuff, the cops were not hit by the person attacking them, period. He shot their car, so like he definitely started it. And also that part's a little bit weird, so keeping in context like the time that it is, how shit is happening. This guy was driving away, like trying to escape the police. They chased him to that part of Bothell, which is like by a park. He got out of his car and started firing on the police. So they also don't really go into that. They don't mention what they were chasing him for. I assume it was for a crime because I don't have any information otherwise. Like, in defending this, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying that he should have shot at police or that he shouldn't have been like under some sort of like law effect. Like he could have done whatever. But the fact is they chased him to a place where he then engaged them, and one of them died because the other shot him in the seat next to him. And it sounds like everything in that part of it was accidental. Like the cop shouldn't be held accountable for murder, but it's one of those charges of like manslaughter that would get dropped. Like that's sort of where I see that being reasonable in our current atmosphere. And then obviously assault with either intent to kill or not on that guy. He shot at cops, so like the normal law procedure I imagine would be this guy's going to get a felony and go into prison, plus they're going to look at whatever they were after him in the first place. That sounds like what law would be to me. So what happened was they took this guy to court and are charging him with the shooter with the murder. And they are charging him with murder because if he hadn't been shooting at them, it wouldn't have happened. Which, last I checked, is not how law works. But
seems not correct.
Like, on one hand, that pisses me off because, like, that is a very clear statement of, like, we don't care. This is what we decided this is. They even, like, it's written from a perspective of clearly not taking the side of the person shooting, which makes sense in the article. But, like, and this is a Seattle Times article. I don't remember the writer at the moment. It makes sense how they wrote it, except for the part where they don't talk about a lot of the extra bits. And I just think that the fact that nobody is really hearing about this or talking about this besides the people who are pro-police is, again, sort of a problem with reporting. Like, we now have these things saying, like, support this guy's family, which is good, but it isn't like something that is pointing you towards a news article. Like, I had to find this on my own, and it wasn't that quick of a find. So, like, if I'm looking for it and it takes me a few minutes to find it, almost guaranteed most people who are either not as interested or not as, like, wanting to find out, they're not going to see this. Like, people are just going to say, well, that guy killed a cop. And the court backs that up. Anyway, that's one of those super muddy things that I think people pretend don't happen, but that is specifically one of those things that I would like police to be reformed for. There's in the most recent knowledge fight. I imagine you're not listening to that if you're avoiding stress.
A little bit.
Okay.
A whole lot.
The most recent one from last night / this morning went over Austin's. I think it's Austin's at least proposed idea that they're. I don't know. It probably won't get passed as Texas, but they actually had a really interesting version of restructuring police that is not defunding exactly. So I'm not as in favor of it, but for a place that is sort of entrenched in like conservative ideals, like clearly not Austin exactly, but certainly more so than a lot of the country and definitely a lot of parts of that state.
Yeah.
Their idea was to split the police, keep everybody employed from the sound of it, split them into 3 separate trees of management with 3 separate people running it. And the different types of like violent and non-violent crimes would be completely taken away from each other and not given the same chain of command at all. And
that's awesome.
Like, as a way to sort of still work with the conservative idea of what we should have, and then also work with like a place like Texas, where more than most places, Texas is not going to be okay with getting rid of police because they have such a history with like extra what it's like. I don't think it's extrajudicial, but it's like it's outside of general enforcement. Like they're
vigilante stuff.
Kind of. So like the Texas Rangers have basically been like that occupying force of like federal military that they love there. Like they have a history with being fine with the type of stuff that is going on now, but under their own terms. So like the idea of them saying we're going to get rid of police is kind of laughable without a huge amount of time and effort. But even if that doesn't go through, the idea that that's being suggested, and that's an idea that I could have come up with, maybe the like we should not have them work in the same place, but I definitely wouldn't have had any information as to like, well, here's how we can do it. And it sounds like they have a very good idea of how they could do it. So
that's really cool. Yeah.
Also, trying to say like we're gonna fire these people in current situations is not going to work in a lot of places. And saying that we're going to take the police out of their job, but just give them their wages anyway, plays into that communist ideal that everybody, or not ideal, but idea that everybody is so fucking up their ass with misinformation on. So like, I don't know. I feel like if we could just have a community service where people went with like a thick glove and just slapped everybody in the face with it, it would be helpful. Like, I feel like there's so many people, and I've heard versions of this other places, but I feel like there's so many people who are untouched by everything and think that that's due to somebody else's doing and not due to the fact that human beings want to like exist around and with each other in most circumstances. Having them at least feel what it actually would be like for somebody to invade your personal space would be another beneficial thing of just, you don't have to deal with this. Think of how lucky you are. You still won't, even if we adjust all of this. Like, shut up. I also my online conversations have they've been fine, honestly. I've also been like scheduling it more exactly. Like I'm basically responding and checking stuff like twice a week, maybe. But and those are usually work days specifically because I'm not relaxed on those days. So who cares? Um,
Might
but
as well knock it all out in one day.
mm-hmm. I mean, that's how I feel about a lot of stuff. If you can combine the things you need to do into one day and then take a day off, I feel much healthier at the end of it. But
yeah.
What got away from me for a second? It's not that important. Basically, everything that I'm trying to say whittles down to if people would just shut the fuck up about the like 50s era communism bad shit and listen to people's opinions, that would really be a huge step forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that to even get that conversation started, there have to be thousands and thousands of people outside risking their lives daily is crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep seeing us like just especially with the last couple of things that I talked about with like that influencer and then this business owner doing her thing. There I see so much like circular logic of like someone responding to me saying well, this business owner like totally has the right to say whatever she wants, and like she has a right to her opinion, which I never said that they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it basically every like I get that response a lot, and it basically ends up whittling down to I want to say what I want to say, and you can't say anything in response to it. Like I just want it to be unchallenged completely. Like, and that's my freedom of speech. It's just like for me to say whatever without consequence, and for you to just go about your day and not challenge me on it. And it's like, but like, yeah, it's really frustrating. Like, how are you going to have any sort of conversation if you won't even like engage at all? I don't.
Well, you've seen the conversations that I've been having, some of them at least.
Yes.
That's the exact same response to those, is just like, yeah, but I'm right though, is not a response.
Like,
also, I feel like the further those conversations go, if you're very conservative, and like this obviously doesn't apply to everybody, there's plenty of people who are very productive people and conservative. Like that doesn't really change, but it's the idea of like the more that I talk to specific people, the more that they want to inform me of all of their accomplishments as like their bona fides and stuff like that. And there's never any backing for it. There's never any like, I've done this, this, and this. And it's like, really? I'm impressed. What was this about? And then that's when the conversation always ends. It feels like the fucking people a bunch of people like this went to art school or were in that area. People who would say like they were in the military or something, like people who would just straight up lie to you about how cool they were. Cool. And then when you would ask them about it, it would be like either they would escalate it to a degree that was like, oh, that's super fake, or they would have like a bunch of made up stories to embellish like tiny things that they had done that fine, that's something, but compulsive lying is a really good defense in your head against things like having to back up your opinions, but it seems like a really one-way street. Like, how do you back that up from not back it up like with evidence? I mean, like, back out of it and then have people go like, but I think the thing you're saying now is true. Like, and it just feels like the most common thing I get is stats from people that are just like, that's fake stats though. Like, here's 4 different examples of how that's a fake stat. And then, like, how are you supposed to trust any of the stats they use after that? Like,
Right.
in order to have that conversation with people, you have to let them keep saying fake stuff until they say real stuff. But the fake stuff never goes away, at least not yet, with most of those conversations. So, like, I don't know where to go with it. Our
Yeah, I
our
also
reporting isn't
find
perfect, but you can find a lot of information if you double check and shit.
right, if you actually look, I've been getting I, challenged like that a lot on sources too, just with
Yeah.
people that I've been talking to. And I typically, when I'm discussing or like debating somebody about something, I don't especially when it's like COVID related and like talking about systemic racism, and they're saying things to me that are so very obviously not backed by any sort of uh, actual scientific finding or like
Uh-huh.
measurable thing. I don't even like challenge them as to what their sources are because it doesn't cross my mind to even bring that up. But I am constantly getting asked, like, okay, well, what are your sources on this? And I'll be like, here they are. And then they're like, oh, well, those are biased. So
Uh-huh.
like you can't really ever win because there's no common ground as to what is an okay source.
Well, I
And
like showing somebody something and it's like, well, the AP reported on this, CNN reported on this, and like some rando person like New York Times reported on this. In that scale, if you weren't just coming from the like neoconservative realm of like Fox News is liberal or the Blaze is liberal, and then everything else is like taking it more seriously, in the real scale of like the breadth of our politics, like that's a decent middle chunk, and it just leaves out the sides of our politics that are far left and far right.
yeah,
um, you can show people that and they'll be like, well, these are all fake, but they'll show you like a source from like 3 different people who work at the Blaze and say, see, it's backed up.
from
And
like PragerU and
yeah, it's PragerU, the Blaze, and the Daily Stormer all said this is true. It's like, oh, cool.
Candace Owens said it on her podcast, so it
God
must
damn
be
it.
true. Yeah, someone someone just responded to my comment saying someone just linked me to an article. Uh, People are so up in arms about the whole. I guess someone in the leadership of BLM like described herself as a Marxist,
Uh-huh.
and everyone is losing their shit because God forbid uh,
I I
that be. I don't even care about that.
I told you about trying to pose my communist feelings towards my own mother with like, hey, I'm a communist, like the joking, like
Yeah.
I can back out of this, right? If you're upset, uh, that kind of thing. And she was like, what? Like,
What?
and she's like part of the reason why I grew up in a situation where I even like got the chance to not be like as ingrained with racism as I obviously could have been. I went to fucking hick high school and a rich, like almost exclusively white middle school. So like if I didn't have that early experience to teach me like, hey, people are people, very easily could have fallen in with all kinds of shitty ideas. And like having the person who put me in those positions and was the only example of me getting punished for unknowingly saying things that were from racist sources, I expected way more out of like acceptance on that stuff. But
Yeah, I think
even people who, I don't know, it just, if nothing else, it proves that you can have good opinions, but it doesn't mean all your opinions are good. And it's kind of like how, well, let's be real, the way that people are acting and like what you're describing in Idaho and all that, not being a Leninist and not agreeing with things like the Vanguard, that's starting to be like I still don't agree with it, but like I get it, because when you think about how to deal with people like that and how to like how do I just get rid of this problem, something like that makes sense. But
Mm.
like the idea of it isn't like, I don't know. It's like people who um, think of Marx as like, I almost feel like they don't even think of it as the person and their philosophy. They think of it as like a label that puts you in like an opposition camp.
Yeah, that's exactly what they use it as. Because I like, to be fully honest, I'm still learning the difference between all these things. Like, I'm still
Yeah.
figuring out what exactly I believe. I would call myself a communist. I think that's fair. I don't know where I fall like into camps underneath that.
Mm-hmm.
So far, the small amount of research that I've done about Marxism generally, don't disagree with everything
Yeah.
that I've seen. So, still still learning, but um, as of now, I'm fine with it. But like, the just kind of dog whistle of, oh, you're a Marxist, so I can just write off everything that you're saying and like not engage with it, because I mean, these people aren't even acknowledging the fact that, first of all, that's one person within a huge organization.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, there's a difference between Black Lives Matter, the organization, and Black Lives Matter, the movement. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's pretty obvious. Like, obviously, not everybody who says Black Lives Matter is a Marxist,
Yeah.
because duh, like,
Well,
but
that's
I
like
just
everybody who follows the Trump line of thinking must also be very stupid because Trump is. Like, I,
yeah.
that logic never gets turned around in any real way because people would say it's ridiculous. But if it's a group of people who agree with people who are not like leaders in like an organizational sense, but like that's what leaders are. And having like you can have a thought leader, you can have like an actual Marx and point to them, but that's not what they are either. It's just
Right.
organizers. Like those
Yeah,
people
like,
aren't the
she's
rest of their people.
yeah, I mean, they're not. I think they've even addressed the lady who said it. They even addressed it lots of times, but like, obviously, they're not creating a political party like based on
Mm-hmm.
Marxism. It's. I mean, you can go on the website. All of it's available. If you wanted to do literally any research into it, it it makes no sense. And also, actually was reading. I the article that I've been linking people to is from PolitiFact. They did a
Mm-hmm.
kind of a breakdown of like why no, BLM is not a Marxist organization. Yes, someone within BLM said that they were. And no, they don't want to destroy the nuclear family. Like, on their website, basically, where that comes from is on their website. It says something to the effect of like, it, I'm gonna butcher it. It basically, they were saying, we believe that the community should kind of like rise up to take care of each other, so it's
Mm-hmm.
not fully dependent upon that structure for people to be okay. And that's like the only interpretation of that sentence, as far as I'm concerned, that you could have in any like good faith. That I think people just see the words nuclear family and they're
Yeah.
like, lose their shit.
That
So that's
I
why.
have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I just I don't know. It is very much like the whole Marxism thing is very much I can just write this off immediately and I don't even have to think. Like, the guy who told me like I don't belong here because I mean, I didn't even say that I supported BLM or anything. He's just like, nope, sorry, you.
Well, if you follow that logic to the United States logic, uh, they want to wipe out all Marx. Like Marx, communist, socialist, any of that, they want it gone. Like, as a country, that is our position for the last, like, 100 years.
Right.
And that's arguably why, or at least one of the reasons why we entered into World War II in the first place. So, like, having a history of hating anti-capitalist ideas is our whole brand. And people just refuse to believe that their life is based off of a materialist idea. They think that they're altruistic because they're patriotic, which is crazy.
Yeah.
We're going to try to keep this one shorter, like we mentioned. So we probably have about 25, 30 minutes before we're done with it. But we're going to probably do another shorter one in a few days. So it'll give Madison time to not ruin her face. And I know I got some questions about why there wasn't a podcast this week. So I just wanted to state that while we were doing this one. And I'll watch the clock. I have it at least partially in a good viewpoint. The nuclear family thing really bothers me, and I hadn't thought about that for a while, and now I'm gonna have to think about it for a while.
For that.
But the whole point of having that shit is because the way that the United States handles all things is based on Christianity, and they refuse to admit it. And they only want to tell you that Christianity is being oppressed and run their weird, like, pre-Holocaust shit about Muslims. So, like, nobody's going to let go of the nuclear family thing because it is a way of saying, if you're not married to the right gender with the right lifestyle in the right places, then you're not part of society because you're not part of our weird Christian club. Yeah. And like, that sounds conspiratorial when I say it, but like, actually look at the way everything is built. Taxes, yes, it is more expensive when you're married, but think of all of the fucking protections that you get compared to other people if you are white, married, and especially if you have kids or something along those lines. You are considered somebody who belongs here then, where if you are not those things, if you are single, which that guy definitely is, or you are like, or you're, not adhering to the specific, like, sexual ideology of, like, Christianity, you have your rights fought against daily. And people forget that your rights, much like being white in this country, are basically static without those extra things.
Right.
Which the fact that I even have to refer to it as extra is crazy because it is all from the same start point and it's not extra. It shouldn't be, the same way that, like, the color you are shouldn't be. But nobody will look at that, and it's gotten to the point where you can't even say Christian values are oppressing people and have been for generations. You have to say we need to support people even if they aren't in a nuclear family, which is like the most milquetoast thing ever compared to what we should be trying to do. It's like if we were trying to defund the police and let's say we wanted to give them more money to be better at their job instead. Like, fuck off. I don't know.
Funny.
It sucks that part of me thinks that, like, there shouldn't be all of this, like, sort of euphemistic way of talking about this stuff where we should be able to just fucking say it. But unfortunately, I think that having old people who will see that as an attack is super dangerous because, like, on Alex Jones this week, he was saying specifically that old people are going to die anyway, so they should start killing people and take one for the team.
Jesus Christ.
That is the message of, like, the far right now, is like, look, you know what's right, just get it done. Like, and honestly, like, I can't disagree.
Death cult territory.
Maybe old people should all go away. But I would prefer if that were, their voices were taken as only as important as their voices are, and not as some sort of weird decree from like God or something, because that's how we treat
Yeah.
some community in Florida says that they don't like something, we're all of a sudden fine with it. But if a giant community in a city says that they're not okay with something, we need to fucking send federal military there to tell them that they're wrong by hitting them. Like, it's just crazy. Also, all of the stuff lately with all of the far right gun rights people have like universally just sort of decided that actually gun rights aren't for the left, so we don't need to worry about any of that. And
Oh
also
yeah, yeah,
military
yeah.
police, that's actually just for us. Like, they should be doing what they're doing. Like, all of that shit is crazy. That was my suggestions part of my intro, was how Trump has decided that he's just going to continue to suggest, like, maybe we don't have an election. Ha! Jokes, right? But he's, like, trying to convince our country to do anal, and it seems like the conservatives are only half opposed to it, which I don't love.
They're not giving a real strong no. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever anybody is asked, like Mitch McConnell and all of them, about, like, is that going to happen? Because nobody wants that. Their answer is always like, well, it might not be the best idea, but I don't know. And they're not even talking about, as people who are not smart, but are very well informed on things like law, they're not talking about the part where the president can't. Like, they're not talking about
It
any
has
of that
nothing to
shit.
do. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the actual reality of the
No.
situation of like what he can and can't. Like he literally can't do that. So funny how like traditions and values and the way things were set up since the beginning is like so sacred, but as soon as Donald Trump wants to tear it down, it's like that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, it may
If
be.
it helps us out, yeah, it's whatever.
But
Um,
God forbid someone stick their vote in the mail and have that count.
yeah, sure. Oh shit, we should actually mention that real quick. Right now, it's suggested that for my screen froze for a moment, which I know probably won't be reflected, but it was the perfect face to get on the main thing. I hope it gets there. Anyway, so the people who are keeping an eye on the post office and the delivery times and all that, as they're trying to fucking sink it as hard as possible.
Yeah.
They're saying that voting should still work in most places just fine, but you should try to vote 2 weeks early, because that's about the extent of what they're seeing for like the delays and stuff that they're artificially putting into it. So I think they were saying to vote on like, or try to get your vote in by like October 15th, basically, is like when you should try to have your vote in to be safe. Which I want to extend that here too, because like, just vote early. Vote when you get it, honestly. Like, what are you deciding on that you don't already know at this point?
Maybe they need to do what I need to do and just kind of stew in their sadness with their ballot for a few days.
Yeah, exactly. Just fill it out and then put it on your door, so whenever you look at leaving, you just look at this like, well, I guess that decides it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that is non-politic related that I also wanted to mention, is that one of my... Oh, actually, I'll have to mention that too. Maybe I'll mention that first. So today is the last day of government supported unemployment. So who knows what that means, but it's going to be bad. For me personally, last I heard, as long as they fucking do it, the federal support is supposed to still exist, but it's supposed to exist at either 200 or 400, and who knows if that's going to happen. I read maybe the most frustrating article I've ever read today. um, I'm going to say ever read today because that feels like how things work.
Yeah.
Of somebody trying to act like they're on the left-leaning side of it, but supporting the idea that no, we don't. It's not that we need to get rid of that money. It's that we need to reformat it to be less of a strain on the country. Which, first off, fuck you. The Pentagon 10% reduction that got voted on like a week and a half ago or whatever. It was 10% reduction in funding for the Pentagon specifically that would have taken us exactly like 2.5 years back in how much we were spending, which is still a fuck ton. It's 10%, and that's what we were spending in 2017. That would have paid for everything in terms of our unemployment stuff, and it would have had money for like other public stuff we needed. And they voted it down 93 to 324 in Congress.
Oh, yeah.
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 A huge margin. And that very specifically was a thing that was like, look, it's not a big deal. Like, this is actually pretty tiny in terms of like what we could do. But like, we could stop arguing about the unemployment stuff because like this will take care of it and we'll still have plenty of money. And they universally opposed it practically. Thankfully, like a lot of Seattle people are on the right side. Like there are a lot of people that are in the places you would expect that were like, yeah, that sounds fine. And then basically it just gives us a list of like 324 people to fucking say no to on everything else. And it just sucks because this is the kind of decision that people like Warren and Biden and all of them make when it comes down to it is, oh, no, we're not going to change that. We're not going to change anything about what we're doing. Like, we still want to be killing people everywhere and trying to suppress people who are, like, just trying to live their lives because it supports us. We're not going to change that. And the fact that that got so little press compared to a lot of other stuff, again, really fucking sucks. Because it makes it harder to talk to, say, your family and be like, hey, those people you support, we need to get them in office, but also they're fucking dog shit. Like, they're terrible.
Yeah.
Just the image that I want burned into everybody's mind when they talk about, like, the perfect politics of somebody like Elizabeth Warren, which I, too, really liked Elizabeth Warren until she started doing shit. It's the image of them like pushing into like the Iraq war and her just like loving it, like being so pro that shit. And it fucking sucks. Like, there are plenty of people who are against it and they are completely ignored. And the people who are like, yes, let's kill people in other countries to maintain. What are we maintaining? Like, nothing. We didn't go there for peace, and the stuff we did do for peace, we stayed and made it worse instead of trying to do anything, even to the point where like we underfunded it so our returns were better. Like, it's all shit. Anyway, that's a 5,000 year conversation, I feel like, but the thing I wanted to mention besides the unemployment stuff, that if it goes to 200, I'll live. If it goes to 400, I'll live. The fact that people are saying that everybody's getting a bunch of extra money pisses me off, because my experience, at least, is that I only get matched up to $600, which is, even if it were extra, wouldn't be a ton of money. But I often end up since I've actually gotten paid for like a handful of weeks finally, that money only makes up to about like $590 per week, which, granted, I've had to save almost every penny of it because any idiot could see it coming that they're going to try to take all of that away. But like, I still probably don't have enough to last for more than like a couple of months. Like, it's the weird assumption that everybody's like getting fucking paid, and it's like, that's crazy. But in this article, this person talks about like, hey, according to Chase Bank, people are going to have 0.5% more liquid assets this year than any other year. And it's like, what does that mean?
What?
Literally, give me a calculator. I'm going to tell you what 0.5% of liquid assets added to my fucking shit is. According to that, if I get 0.5% of my liquid assets added in, I get $85 this year. Fuck yeah! Like, spending money, it's crazy that, like, that is a thing that people are even talking about. Like,
hey, yeah, and then you see the articles that are like, why aren't people buying anything? Like, we gave them extra money. Like, why aren't they spending it?
well, and they're arguing from the position of not poor people, so they are arguing for the other sets of people who aren't unemployed or having to live roughly, which is not as many people now as it was, and they're trying to take that and say, like, well, spending's gone way up, and it's like, I don't know if you know what you're talking about. Also, like, even if you were to, and by way up, I mean, like, very mildly up, but any increase in spending, people are going to be, like, fucking jacking themselves off about if that's their opinion already.
Yeah.
Like, you have to consider that, like, office jobs, which is a ton of jobs right now, part of keeping people in those jobs where they are, like, pretty predatory, but, like, better than a lot of jobs, is they give you food. And same with, like, a lot of other places where, like, yeah, you still have people bringing lunches to work, but, like, a lot of the things that you do over the course of your day that you don't think about are lightly funded to keep you, like, happy. So, like, even when I go to work currently, because, you know, I have to work in house in order to live, which I hate, because, like, the fucking pandemic's worse than it ever has been right now. That shit is still like, oh, right, I have access to, like, some fruit and like a sparkling water here. When you really consider it, that's like $10 more I don't have to spend, and that's like every day. And it is helpful to have that, but that is not fixing your life when we're in good times, and that is definitely not a good reason for increased spending being good now. Like,
yeah,
nobody who writes things seems like they've ever been poor. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I think Operation Legend is an incredibly stupid name, but I think that we need to start coming up with dumb operation names for our own shit, just so people talk about it in a way that is, like, more unified and not anarchy. Kind of like how I would like a Karens for Good respelling of Karens. I would also like I would like a like Operation like what? Operation Epic Gains or something. Like something just ridiculous or stupid for us to, like, start pushing from the other side to, I don't know, get some kind of decent recognition.
We need some rebranding.
You're in
It's
front
a branding
of a
issue.
I wanted you to see some things that I think are important and beautiful, and they can be attached to our posting because nobody's going to tell us not to. So I've been playing a lot of old PlayStation 1 stuff in my free time lately. And I'm not familiar with a lot of it past, like, the sort of era importance and, like, bits of like ephemera, but now I'm actually getting to, like, see the full experience. I want you to type in you're familiar with Harry Potter movies, at least. I would like you to type in Harry Potter 1 PS1 faces.
Harry Potter 1 PS1 faces.
And just,
I'm so excited.
Just
oh
love
my.
what you see.
Oh my. Oh no.
They did it so
Yeah.
good.
Oh my god. Yeah, we definitely need to post these. Uh, the Hagrid. Oh my god.
It is so clearly what happened with part of it is that so they use a lot of book stuff. So I think they didn't use like movie music in that first one. I think that they wanted to make things that split the difference between the book and the movies, but it's on PS1, so it looks like shit. But they made it look
Mhm.
way worse than even that. And they just made it amazing. Every
It's
one of those
so
characters is
good.
correct.
Everyone's face is just so smooth
Uh-huh.
and
Uh
yet so angular at the same time.
um I
Um,
uh I think that
okay.
the art I was talking about this with Natalie recently. The art in PlayStation 1, it was before games got their second renaissance that was like well, I guess third renaissance in a way, uh, of being like considered artistic. So they could still make things that were like very, very away from the norm, but like experiment with stuff. They didn't experiment with controls very much in a lot of ways, but they did with like visuals and audio.
Mhm.
And that Harry Potter stuff is the perfect mistake of how they did that shit. Also, you can tell by those faces how the mouths move when they talk, and it's very good.
Yeah. I need to look up a video of that, but we'll definitely be posting those with our weekly posting because those are incredibly good.
um, hmm. Oh, that's right. I was gonna say. If anybody listens to Knowledge Fight, they might have already heard this, uh, but they probably forgot. uh, if so, I've been listening to bits of old stuff because I feel like now that we've had another big shift in like conservative messaging, listening to the analysis of old shifts in conservative messaging is really useful. So I'm listening to their analysis of messaging shifting from like 2017. And
Mhm.
um, one of the things that was from May 2017, episode 40, if you want to find it, Dan went back through and gave them all numbers a few weeks ago. Um, so in that episode, Jordan, the like color commentator on that podcast, uh, he predicted that a BLM protest would get declared a violent riot, and that would bring Trump into ordering the National Guard in towards trying to start a dictatorship in 2017. So I think that's notable.
Sounds familiar. Yes,
Uh
yes.
huh. Uh,
Mm,
I am glad that people are paying enough attention to that shit to see it coming. Because like
yeah.
without that, if all of this stuff caught us completely off guard, I think there would be way more panic. But at least people are paying attention to it. But I was impressed with the amount of like this, and this are gonna happen. And in listening through,
Oh no.
that was like 4 weeks or maybe 3 weeks before uh the lady got killed at the Ferguson rally. So this was before that shit happened,
Wow.
which I think would have made it easier to predict. But like, yeah, it's kind of nuts.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll have to go back and listen to that. I'd be curious to hear like the specifics of
Yeah,
what they said, but yeah, that's not surprising. Mm.
yeah. Let's see. Too many notes, things that'll have to wait. Uh,
I
Anything else useful? Probably not.
I bought slime.
Yeah, show me that slime.
This was my I was scared I was having a stroke, so I'm gonna let myself purchase something really stupid to
I
make myself feel better.
I think you mentioned that. I'm glad that you kept it a secret. It sure does look like it has like seeds in it, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I think they were going for like a kiwi sort of thing because there's like little foam blocks
I mean,
in
I'm
it.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah,
What does it smell like?
looks so this is the disappointing part is that it does advertise a fun scent. There is no fun scent. This just smells like glue or
Oh,
I mean, and not even like a kind of glue that you would want to be smelling. It's like just it's not a fun scent. There's it's not like fruity. It's not anything. So
huh.
I was really disappointed, especially because it looks like a kiwi goo.
Yeah, kiwi scent would be great with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I I really like dumb shit like that. I'm glad I'm not the only one. But um,
Hmm.
it, recently I watched a video of somebody having somebody explain gack to them that had never seen it, which is basically like slime but a little less sticky. Uh,
Mm.
and
Yeah, this is a little too sticky for my tastes.
I wonder if the heat affects it because I feel like slime isn't always
Probably.
that sticky. Have you tried just covering your face in it yet and ruining it?
You know, maybe that's the cure that we need actually for the situation. Yeah,
I've
I this is like I did buy this in the toy aisle of a Walmart. So,
hell
and
yeah,
it's like Nickelodeon brand, so this makes total sense.
yeah,
But I did also actually buy some kinetic sand because I was
yeah.
just on a I really needed some like calming textures that day and Walmart did not disappoint in
Side note,
that area.
um, I guess uh, my thing for self, uh, I don't know, for stress relief was getting a cooler haircut so I can like actually stay temperature protected.
That is
Um,
good.
but the thing I did not anticipate, also, I have been getting some shit from people. Uh, I honestly don't know how they would think so, but because I did this myself, and I guess this isn't a normal haircut that people give themselves, uh, it has been getting a lot of like, I didn't think you were going to go get a haircut. Like, is that safe kind of comments? um,
Oh, they think
uh,
you did such a good job that you like that's that's funny. It
which
does look good.
I'm glad that it is. All I wanted was for it to not be noticeable, so it works out for that. Um, but the thing I'm noticing now, because it has been since then that I cut, since our last podcast that I cut it, is that without the hair protection, because right now it's fine, when it's pulled back, my headphones dig in a little bit. So I'm
Oh
gonna have
yeah.
to like put some kind of protection, I think, if I have my hair back for a while. Um,
Yeah, it does
I
show.
I will say I basically had to cut my hair the way that I make cake, which is to say, slowly and methodically, and all with like tools that are like the slowest, so that I can have some control over it. Because I didn't use an extra mirror because I couldn't set it up, and I ended up just like feeling where things were and slowly like working through it. Um, I don't know.
Well, it looks really good for not having another mirror and just in general. Like I can't imagine haircutting without an additional like back mirror.
It was
Seems really hard.
difficult, but it's worth it because now when I wash my hands, and usually I wash my hands and then I like rinse off my face almost always like together because I
Hmm.
don't want to like when I'm out especially I want my hands clean, I want my face like messed with, and then I don't have to mess with it.
Yeah.
Um, and now that I have short hair up to like uh, basically like I just have the circle at the top of my head has long hair and the rest is shaved down. And it's technically the same length as my beard, but like it's much thicker, so you can't tell as easily. Now I can rinse my face off and then put water on the back of my head, and it is so much cooler
Oh,
instantly.
that
Like,
sounds really good
it
right
is the
now,
best.
especially.
Also, my head feels like dog hair. I'm realizing when it's this length, it just feels like a medium hair length dog. So that's apparently my hair texture is dog.
Dog hair. I mean,
Yeah. There's worse things.
there are worse things. I mean, if you're really in a pinch for some like calming sensation, you could always just pet the back of your head and pretend that you've got
Yeah.
a good old friend.
Oh, it's fine. I got this. Um,
Good.
I feel like one of the things I want to talk about on the next episode is going to be some of the crazy PlayStation 1 stuff that I've found,
Mm-hmm.
because some of it is very experimental and very weird. Um, I also have some, I don't know, I have some bummer stories that I want to go through, but I feel like it could just as easily be recommendations towards other pieces. Because I would like to make, especially if we're going to do two shorter podcasts, I would like to make at least one of them more uplifting, I guess.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Uh, it's kind of up to the world how uplifting it is in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see, but I I'm sure I can find something in the next week more uplifting to talk about. We built my computer, so I'll
I was
probably
just going to ask about that.
yeah, I'll probably be able to talk more about that. I've been home since like the day that I built it,
Mm-hmm.
so I haven't really fully gotten to experience it other than I played League of Legends on it a couple of times and the difference is just stupid. So,
Really?
um, yeah, I mean, I've never played the game on like the full graphics settings. So
Mm-hmm.
I basically didn't really know what it looked like.
Okay.
And it's a really pretty game. Like they do a good job. It's very nice to look at. So that's cool to see what everybody else sees, I guess, when they play. I don't know that it'll affect my actual. Well, that's not true. It does run much better. So I hope it'll help me be not as bad. So
Yeah.
I'll take what I can get. But
Well, I will say I don't know how quickly we can try and do this stuff, but if we can find a reliable way to record off of the internal audio for what we're doing, because right now we record, we basically let Skype do the work, and then we take
yeah.
that combined recording. Um, what we need to find is something that lets us record, uh, not record necessarily. So I think that doing some Twitch streaming would be good, just as like another thing to do. And for something like that, we don't necessarily need image of us. Like if you want to look into like an OBS style thing and see, we can try that out too. But my idea was maybe we take the audio that you're doing and see if we can fuck with it so that the audio that I do comes in through that instead,
Mm,
which would require like the initial audio to be running through something, but like with the purpose of just being in your Twitch stream, not its own thing.
right.
Uh, if we can figure that out, we could do it maybe here. I don't know how this setup would work, but definitely there. And So I have the computer set up for audio. If you're Twitch streaming, I can have the stream on behind it. And I think that that could actually be pretty fun to try. But
That would be fun. Yeah. I actually
people watching this will know if we get that figured out.
yeah, I have a friend who let me have access to his Steam library and I've been
Nice.
wanting to start playing Outlast 2. So that might be something fun to
Yeah.
stream through. Yeah.
Honestly, I could give you access to my Steam library in the future as well. I have a bunch of weird, like free or nearly free shit that I got.
Me too.
Yeah, I also have like, I mean, I have a bunch of like, I don't know. I've been a member of Steam for like 13 years or something ridiculous. So it like basically the week it came out when it was still like a buggy pile of shit. Um, so from like BioShock 1, I have just an absurd amount of weird shit in there. But I also have some things that are like I mean they're not current. I don't think I have anything current in there really, but I have uh some stuff that's definitely worth playing and some like big games that now might be really funny to like look at. Uh, I also have like
Yeah.
this may not work depending on the content requirements, but I definitely have like a handful of like sexy puzzle games that could be really funny. Uh, Maybe the only
Ooh.
video that people would prefer over the two of us talking would be the two of us talking with sexy puzzles in the
I
corner.
mean, there's always that. There's always sexy puzzle. I think a good stream would be like stupid visual novels. There's
Uh huh.
always that corner
I
of
have
things.
those. Uh,
Yeah.
the nice thing about Steam is a lot of stuff goes up for like $1. So like, I for real probably have like 500 things on there of just like horrible quality. Uh, but like it works. I also I'm slowly figuring out how to get the RetroPie system of stuff to stream, uh, and that would probably be a much better version of my end of stuff because we could play Harry Potter 1
Ooh,
and things
yeah.
like that. We could. I would love you to see how actually terrible the Tomb Raider games are because they fucking suck. And
I would
everybody,
like to see that. I've only seen screenshots.
I'll tell you. So Tomb Raider 2, I recently played some of, and these are games I never liked. But I was like, I'm gonna play this for real. I want this experience to be able to talk about it. There's a training mode in Tomb Raider 2 where you go to a mansion. That's the most interesting thing. And around the outside of the mansion is an obstacle course for you to learn the controls. The the tutorial game in PS1 era 2000, I think it's PS1 is like 96 to like 2002-ish. And
Hmm.
the tutorial game sucks. So it's just like you'll get a little pop-up that's like, hey, try doing this. And then it doesn't matter how you get to the point where the next thing pops up. That's the only thing they programmed. So like you can skip it. You can just like find a different way up to stuff and it'll be like, and now that you've mastered that, um, like there's one section where it's like teaching you how to do all the jumps that are vital to the rest of the game, but you can walk around the side and just climb up. And it tells you like, oh, great job, you're a jump master. In
That's
addition to that,
awesome.
the first level starts with I think it's a helicopter flies in. You like fall out of the bottom of it into a pit that you have to like I guess find your way out of. And there's just a tiger in it. And this isn't like the start of a game that's like you're going into enemy territory. This is literally just like here's the start of a cave, and you have to like puzzle your way up the sides, but there's just a tiger in there, and the answer to that puzzle is whip out guns and shoot it a bunch, and that's it. Uh,
That
it's
sounds right.
it's very bad. So look forward to that someday being some weird garbage we can show off.
Yeah, I definitely want that weird garbage to happen.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
I got a lot of Japanese translations for like older systems, like the one where you are a naked little boy and you get sucked into a toilet, and then you
Oh.
fly around and shoot at people. because Japan has different rules about what games can and should be.
That sounds important to experience.
Yes. So I look forward to hopefully being able to share that with you. Let me just hold on.
Ooh.
All right, this is how I do things now. And with that, we can close out. Do you have
Here's
something ready?
how. Oh, it didn't do it. It's not doing what I want, but...
Get that... Actually, I can hear a tiny bit.
You know, like the squelching?
Actually, keep doing that, and I'll just play this over it. And thank you for experiencing one of the least pleasant 5 seconds in podcasting.
You're welcome, everybody, for that.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. And be gone, thoughts.
Yeah, but jabbers.